taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Hey everybody, welcome to Augmented Reality for April 29th, 2020. So much to talk about today. There's just been a deluge. There's been a lot of news. A lot of gaming news to go through, so we're excited you're all here with us. We are going to be talking about the Last of Us 2 leaks. We will not be doing spoilers. We will not be talking about the actual story spoilers, but we're going to talk about sort of some general stuff around the leaks and what's going on with the company. We'd ask you to please not reveal any spoilers in the chat. Of course, since we can't enforce that, we're going to ask our community, as we always do, please flood the chat with your fake Last of Us 2 spoilers so that nobody knows what the real spoilers are. So yeah, go ahead and let's hear them, folks. Let's hear your ideas for fake Last of Us 2 spoilers. But we will not be discussing any of the real spoilers today. All right, I'm here as always with Cyberpunk. My name is Ash, and this is your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. We are also going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077 today. Got a few stories to talk about with that. And there's a reveal going on right now. The Assassin's Creed Periscope account, or the Ubisoft... No, it is the Assassin's Creed one.
Yes, Assassin's Creed
is doing a reveal for the setting of their next game, and it's really interesting what they're doing. It's like a live Photoshop job that's been going on for the past few hours, where somebody is literally painting this scene together, and it's really interesting. So I've got that on in the background. I'll just be keeping an eye on it to see if anything interesting happens. I don't know if it's pre-recorded or if someone's actually doing it live, but it's impressive work.
No, they're doing it live.
They're doing it live, hey?
Yes, yeah, it was in the tweet.
Okay, well,
so this is a live rendering of the artist who's basically like doing this stuff. This will be one of the finalized like marketing pictures for this as well, and so this is really interesting to actually watch this happen in like live.
Yeah.
Like as they are and this is basically them making this announcement that this is going to be a Viking era game, most likely centered around either the Vikings or looks like Britannia or Britain or England, however you want to like refer to it as. That seems to be the story. So,
right. So we'll get into that. We'll get into some more analysis of that. Like, I'm not really good at assessing, how the things look and determining what era it's in, but it does look like very sort of a Viking-ish type setting. So, if you're listening,
there are long boats, and there's
the boat looks very.
So,
yeah. Anyway, you can see a snippet of it in the thumbnail today, and I'll throw up later on. I'll throw up a screenshot I grabbed of it earlier to give you a better idea. Yeah, if you're listening live today, please do say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. All right, so let's start with Cyberpunk. So the rating for Cyberpunk 2077 in Brazil has leaked, and it has received an 18+ rating in Brazil. And Pavel Sasko from CD Projekt Red, had a typical Pavo response on Twitter. You surprised? There should almost be like how there's a like "you mad bro" meme face thing. There should be a you surprised bro. And he followed that up with "we don't F around." And it's really interesting how I'm actually just opening the tweet here to look at how the screenshot that leaked really breaks down how they rate things in Brazil. Apparently, it's kind of funny because It's translated to English. So apparently, to get an E rating, you can include weapons without violence and moderate or hinted use of illicit drugs. That'll get you an everyone rating. And those things are included. But weapons with violence, you get a 10 plus rating. Also, 10 plus is criminal action without violence, description of consume of licit drugs. bit of a translation issue here. Derogatory language, whatever that means. You get bumped up to a 12 plus rating if you include verbal aggression, violent acts, sexual pleasurement, consume of licit drugs, violence description, exposure to danger, exposure to death corpse, body injury, foul language, etc., etc. I won't go through all of these, but it just keeps going up from there. And so nudity and sexual stuff gets you up to a 14 or a 16 plus rating, and then what really bumps it up to an 18 plus rating, according to this list of items that they consider, is cruelty. Whatever that means. I'm not sure what that means in this context. And then they have mitigating factors, which they say is nothing. There's nothing that mitigates these factors. But there are aggravating factors, including illicit drug consume and intense sexual relationship was aggravated by scene composition. Interesting. I wonder if the first person perspective had anything to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So it's got an 18 plus rating in Brazil. Now, what's going to happen in other regions, do you think? Because my guess is that they would be trying to avoid that AO rating, the adult only rating in Europe and America. I don't know what it's called in Europe, but
well, I mean, it's. I don't think they've done anything to necessarily try to avoid it. I think they've had their idea of the story that they're telling, and that they're not including any like. I suspect that they're not including like direct extreme content. So that's probably kind of their cap off. But I mean, if one country or one place gives them a more strict rating over somebody else, that isn't necessarily going to come out as a surprise either. So, yeah, right now we're sitting here kind of like we're expecting it to be mostly 18 plus, and a few places it'll get a little rating above that in whatever rating boards decide to stretch it to an.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about this rating system from Brazil, it seems like it got 18 plus because of this inclusion of cruelty, whatever that means. I don't know if there's kind of a translation hiccup there, but there's something that's depicted in the game that's not specifically violence, not specifically sexual content, that pushed it over the top in Brazil.
Well, cruelty is one of those things where it's like, I mean, that's. I have issues describing it. So it's like in the game scene, it's like doing something that one would consider a cruel act or a an act of barbarism for the most part, and that is what lands you with that rating. And then that's like bad, because it's like one thing to shoot a person in a video game when that person's also armed and shooting back at you. It's considered cruel to shoot somebody who's an unarmed civilian, and that's what I think what we're looking at here with that. And that's where you get this rating, because this has popped up in a few places where it's like you can just be you can just put like in cinematics or in other things where you can just like walk around killing innocent, like that is more of the cruelty thing, I think, that we're talking about here.
Right.
it makes the most amount of
Yeah.
sense.
Well, and there's also like there's games that include like torture scenes and things like that. Definitely would add to the rating. Anyway, I just found it interesting that that's what pushed it over the top. And I guess that could be in the context of violence. Probably is in some way, shape, or form in the context of violence, but not. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's sexual stuff that pushed it over the top. It seems like it's more of a thematic content element that pushed it from the 16 plus rating up to the 18 plus rating in Brazil. But I mean, every region has their own way of rating things. Every region has their own way of breaking all this down in terms of the content that is, at what age they determine it's appropriate to consume certain content. So anyway, interesting view of things to come, though. I mean, we should be getting information about the content ratings for other regions in sometime between now and when the game releases. So it'll be interesting to see where it falls. It's definitely a very adult game. Definitely one that,
Yeah,
won't be letting the kids watch me play, kind of a thing.
I mean, it's very in your face, and this is an interesting thing that's shown up here between this and The Last of Us 2. And again, we're not going to be talking spoilers, but you have this, and we know this because we've seen this in the video they put out before. That game was always designed to be extremely violent, but in a different way. It's one thing to be, playing Cyberpunk, going through the Cyberpunk place and like, pulling out a pair of mantis blades or big gun and just exploding people left and right and whatnot. It's another thing to like slowly, stab and cut and visually like have really like high fidelity graphics showing like slow, brutal killings of like melee and stuff like that. Because it's like it's one thing in games when you're super weapons and you're just kind of flying through levels and it's like things are exploding around you and it's like rah. It's another thing to slowly over the course of like 4 or 5 minutes beat an NPC to death.
Yeah. No, exactly. And there's a lot of that stuff that is I mean,
and that's where we're hearing that I mean, this is really Last of Us 2 has really turned into this like really bad B movie / like horror flick with a word that I don't think I can actually say on YouTube.
Yeah, I should probably avoid it. But yeah, I mean, there's realism. There's going for
bad.
Yes,
As
from what
far
I've
as
heard,
that
it's
goes.
from what I've heard, it's pretty brutal. And like, there's realism, and it seems like Cyberpunk is going for realism. Then there's kind of semi-realistic, but going over the top, like the Wolfenstein series, of course. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and you get Nazi. Oh, that I shouldn't have said. You get the enemy soldier zombies raiding from falling from the sky at one point, and it's pretty silly, but it's
World War II bad guys.
Well, yeah, which
that.
It's stupid that word gets flagged, but anyway, like
in a video game, we're talking about a video game.
Well, yeah, in a video game. So they're raining from the sky and they turn into zombies, and it's like the game is semi-realistic, but then it goes over the top.
High castle. There we go. We should be okay because like you could talk about high castle and say the N word all the time. Not that N word, the other N word.
I think your attempts
the short 4-letter.
I think your attempts to cover for me saying it are making it worse.
No, it's fine. You say high castle lots, and that's fine because that's been green flagged by the sense.
Okay, well anyway, I mean, I feel like it gets tedious for the listeners when we go through this whole song and dance. But I mean, we do have to be like, there are certain words you say. We have to play YouTube's stupid game sometimes. Certain things you say, you get the bot's attention, and they suppress your content. It's ridiculous. But anyway, because bots still don't understand context. That's the great failing of most AIs.
Yeah, that's
Cybe
why,
excluded.
That's why when you say things like high castle, and then you say the World War II bad guy names, they don't understand the context. The context was not necessarily including that, but now because you mentioned it, they automatically assume that there's
Yeah.
this big Hollywood production, and all Hollywood productions are big Hollywood productions are considered, sacred by censors and YouTube because, it's Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't do anything bad. All of those stars they love everybody and they're all perfect. Don't you know?
Please,
Don't you know that?
please, California billionaires who make a living acting in movies, dictate me my morality. Anyway, so where were we with that? Oh yeah, I was talking about realism.
Yeah.
So there's realism, then there's like kind of over the top, and then there's like if you like Quentin Tarantino movies, he goes overboard. Yeah. But it's also really silly in some ways. He's kind of mimicking the style of old sort of over the top kind of violence and gore. And he goes to extremes as a stylistic choice. You may like it, you may not. I've seen every Quentin Tarantino movie, and I'm kind of like, every time I watch one, I'm like, why do I keep watching this guy's movies?
Yeah, I kind of asked that for a while ago. I know people are gonna hate me, but I've never been a big fan of his movies. There's only been like a handful that are like, oh, that's interesting or well put together. But again, that's a stylistic, right? Like,
yeah.
it's just
so you either like it or you don't, right? But then there's
and I don't dislike anybody that likes his movies. It's just not necessarily for me, and that's totally fine. And I believe it's totally fine that other people really like his movies, and that's totally fine too, because I really like Joss Whedon stuff and some other stuff, and again is like I have no single Hollywood director is somebody or actor is somebody that I don't worship at the feet of. It's just like, yeah, I like their stuff, it's good, or it's interesting.
Like, it entertains me or it doesn't. That's all that matters.
I find a lot of early Schwarzenegger stuff to be really entertaining in kind of a slapstick way almost, even though it's not meant that way.
Right.
But it comes off as humorous to me. And yeah, so it's yeah.
So anyway, but then there's this category where it just becomes gratuitous, and the focus of the content is the gruesomeness and is the graphic depictions of unpleasant things, and that I do appreciate being warned about, because I'm not into that. I've got a very high tolerance for simulated violence and gore. But if the whole point of it is just, I don't even want to describe the kinds of things I'm talking about. But, if it crosses that line into being realistic but also gratuitous, for me, well, I mean, there comes a point where it's just psychologically not healthy. And we see this with some game developers. We saw this, we covered a while back, the effect that working on the new Mortal Kombat movie was having on some of the developers of that studio, and how they'd have to study real graphic stuff, like real life graphic injury and violence and stuff like that, so that they could accurately simulate it in the game, and it was causing problems for them. It was causing mental health problems. So, I mean, I don't want the people working on my video games, the primary source of my entertainment, to be mentally scarring themselves to make the stuff, first of all. But even though, if you're consuming that, it's not as bad as if you're in the development process and being exposed to it constantly. If you're consuming it on a more isolated basis, it still can't be too healthy if you go too far down that road. This is my opinion. Now, you're free to do what you want, but I mean, it does seem like there's a reasonable basis to have, content restriction, or not restriction, but a label on that kind of content. So, but yeah, like, think about those developers being exposed to that stuff as part of their job and having to like recreate it visually. That bothers me. That really bothers me. Nobody should have to suffer mental, have a blow to their mental health because they chose to have a job in the video game industry.
Well, I mean, it's not just that. And this is one of the things that we've been hearing uh, from this whole thing at Naughty Dog, is that there's a lot of people there who are having issues with this game because of its content in one way or another. They feel like they're coming into work to be yelled at. There are reports that people are showing up to work and being berated by other employees. There are reports that you have name calling is quite common in the office, and it all stems from this. I think it really just stems from the storytelling that they're doing in this game. It's not. First of all, it's old and out of date. Like, personally, I feel it's old and out of date. I like when I heard the generalized concept, I rolled my eyes. I'm like, are we still doing this? Like, is this still a thing? Like, and it gets worse because they've hooked the entire game on this narrative and on this story and on this concept. And I really think that the director of the game, that the head guy at the studio there behind this project, their one of their main actors came out and said, you're gonna have to approach playing this game with an open mind. It's like, when you hear that coming from somebody in this industry, I always cringe at that, because that sounds like it sounds like a cop out.
Well, yeah,
It
it's
really
like saying,
does.
well, you didn't like it. Well, you're just closed minded.
Yeah, I mean, it's this and the this and some of the news that came out about Star Wars this week as well has caught my interest, because and I'll tie this one to Star Wars, just so everybody kind of sees where this is going. So there was info that came out about like the original like plan concept of the original, what would have been the new series, and it was supposed to be about Rey and Luke teaming up, going around the galaxy and doing all this stuff. And the creative minds over at the studio, mostly Kathleen Kennedy, had this brilliant idea of the fact that Luke was just too awesome, and he was just soaking up all of the story whenever he showed up, and nobody could like get in there. And it just felt so bad that they felt like they kind of had to destroy his character in order to make it interesting. And it's like, no, that's just bad writing. Like, that's just like, conceptually, that's just bad like planning. When you have a strong central character from an older series, and then they show up again, there's ways to do that right that make it really good, and there's ways to do that bad. And the difference is in the writing team and the ability to like imagine a story. One of the things you do is you do have these moments where the main hero shows up from the old series and does cool things, but he's doing a different thing. He's doing his own thing, and he's only there to help from time to time. And that he's got other stuff going on. And the best example I can give is probably one of, I think it wasn't the last Spider-Man movie, it was the one before that, where it was the first one where it was like Spider-Man and Iron Man in the same universe. And it, like, Iron Man showed up in a number of places through that movie, and whenever he showed up, yeah, he stole the screen, but it wasn't that wasn't the story. He showed up, he stole the screen, he looked amazing. It was so cool to watch him, but then when everybody else shows up, or when he leaves, then the story is back on Spider-Man and what Spider-Man is doing.
And it really, like, it established him as I thought that was very well done. Yeah, Homecoming.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was,
extremely well done.
and it even
Like,
it had
brilliant.
it portrayed it. There was, you know, like a subplot with Tony Stark
Hmm.
kind of being flawed, and then, you know, changing over the course of the movie a little bit, and with regard to his relationship to Spider-Man, and so it's good. Like, yeah, like the fact that you have Luke as this awesome, amazing character who's super powerful doesn't mean, like, it seems like the a lot of these writers and creators, they either they don't know how to create a realistic character that is
Yeah,
good and has powers and abilities but also has flaws,
yeah.
and to
No,
merge those, it's either like, oh, Luke is super powerful, he's too perfect, so we got to completely destroy him
yeah,
instead.
and
Like,
that's the concept, and that's what. So that's kind of like what I'm saying is that the writing and the directing of Last of Us 2 has just been like, and I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen this. We saw this in Mass Effect 3. We've seen this in a, a dozen other games, right? Where the new writer, he or she is like the sole writer, and they're doing stuff, and because they're either surrounded by yes men or nobody's there to challenge them on conceptual ideas. It's like the fight scene, right? It's like whenever somebody's writing or creating fight scenes, it's like you have to have people there, or you have to be very good at this yourself to critique and say, why is this happening when they could be doing this? Like, why is that happening when that's never a thing that's been done before? And really taking the world and the universe. I was telling this to Time Being earlier this week or last week, where it's like, when going over a fight scene, you have to take all of the lore and all of the story, and you have to kind of look at it and be very critical of yourself. And if you can't do that for a fight scene, then you're certainly not going to do that for the rest of the book or the story, where you're bending, breaking, and shattering rules left, right, and center. You're creating MacGuffin devices and all this stupidity that just lets you get away with whatever you want to do in that particular moment. And it's hard, of course it's hard, and it's a stamp of a good writer when they can actually do that properly. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but that's why you surround yourself when you're working on big projects like this. You need to have these other people to give you feedback, and was the thing that was clearly outlined in the whole Mass Effect 3 thing, is that there was a lot of people who came out and said, yeah, it was just two guys that basically did the whole thing. It was a super secret to everybody else in the studio, and they didn't let anybody in to critique it, and that's why it was bad. Everything else, a lot of these other story points had a lot of criticism and had a lot of people who uh, were working back and forth, and for some reason, nobody thought like, hey, maybe this would be a good moment to like get somebody in here to criticize what we're doing, because apparently they can't take it. And this guy running the studio here at Naughty Dog, I mean, the whole leadership seems completely inept at that. And I made a video a couple weeks back, or maybe even a couple months back, where it's like, this is the last game that Naughty Dog is going to make. Like, you like unless this comes out as an utter masterpiece and shocks everybody and stuns everybody, and it's a masterpiece, and it's so effectively done, and all the story pieces fall into place, and it becomes perfect. That's the only way that they will be able to make another game of this scale, of this size, of even within the same IP,
yeah,
because they have burned through 70% of their original staff that stayed with them after the initial, like, after every major project. There's lots of people who quit and leave because they're temporary, or we talk about this with CDPR a lot, where it's like, yeah, their last game, each time they finish a project, yes, they do lose people. That's not necessarily because somebody's angry at the studio. It's just they have another opportunity to move up. They have a bigger opening. Their visa's out. They just maybe they're a foreigner and they just want to go home. It's very difficult to live in another country that's not similar to your culture that you grew up in. Not everybody can do that. Some people can do it marvelously. Some people enjoy it. But other people, it's just hard, and they need they need to come back to a sense of normalcy, and so they just kind of move around from studio to studio. These are all common and acceptable things. But then you have that original base that stays with you once you start the next project, and you don't typically have a lot of turnaround once you're like diving into the next project after the last one's done. That core staff, that's who they've lost. So from what they've done and from what they've started, essentially they've lost 70%, over 70% in total. But here's like it's around 68, 69% of what they've lost in the studio, as far as just getting into it.
Oh yeah,
And
it was turning like there are reports that like Naughty Dog had to bring on movie
yeah,
like CG artists
Hollywood,
from Hollywood, like the film industry,
yeah,
because game animators just didn't want to work with them. They had
yeah. No,
such a
they
bad
have
reputation. They had so much turnover.
they have burned out not just everybody who worked for them. They've also burned out almost all of the new hires, the new graduates, and anybody else in the industry. Right now, there is a word going around: do not work for Naughty Dog. Your pay will be garbage. Your work will be extremely stressful. You will get no credit, or very little credit for anything, and you will be treated in some of the worst possible ways that you can be treated in this industry.
Yeah,
That's the word going around the colleges and universities where people are kind of desperate to get a job. And it's
so
so
better to not
bad right now.
work than to work for Naughty Dog. When you got that kind of reputation, yeah, that's gonna hurt you. But
Yeah.
let's bring it back around
And
to like the reaction to these leaks, and then we'll talk about
well,
the future of this company a little more, because this is hurting. Like, rumor
this
is,
has hurt everybody
yeah,
involved in this project. We want to make that clear. We don't condone leaks like this.
rumor has it that it's a disgruntled former employee who
Mhm.
grabbed this video or grabbed this footage and put it out. There are differing rumors on what this person's motivation was. I've read that it was a pay dispute. I've also read that it was a political, like being disgruntled over the political bias or something like that. Don't know what the truth is on that, but like I said, rumor is that it's a former employee, and
Yeah.
the general reaction to the story leaks, which we're not going to go into details. There's not going to be any spoilers, but bad. Like,
Extremely.
it's almost universally negative. There's been a lot of people who've pulled their pre-orders and are just or are saying they're not going to buy the game now. So it's yeah, this is hurting them where it counts, which is in the pocketbook. And there was something else I was going to say on that. Slipped my mind. But yeah, so it's hurt. This is hurting their reputation. Oh yes, Sony is aggressively going after these videos online. I was trying to. I can't even spoil, the story because I'm not even familiar with the spoilers. I was trying to. I was literally a quarter of the way through watching the leak video, and it got taken down like while I was watching it. So I don't even know what the big spoilers are, but I've seen hints of them here and there, and it's people are not happy. Like, fans of the first game and people in general just seem to be very unhappy with this. And so this is going to hurt them. And people have been waiting for this game. People have been highly anticipating this game, and for them to be now turning around and saying, "No, we're not interested." That's a big blow. It's a blow to Naughty
Yeah.
Dog and it's a blow to Sony, but especially to Naughty Dog. I mean, Sony's going to be fine, but Naughty Dog. I mean, Saib, you were saying that this was the last game Naughty Dog's going to make. You were saying that before this happened. So
Yeah.
now
No,
what?
this I said this ages ago, not ages ago, months ago, when the when just talking to people in the industry, and they all said the same. I heard the same thing from almost everybody, that Naughty Dog is in utter chaos. and that nobody is willing to work for under any of these people ever again. And that the experience and reaction that they had working for working for Naughty Dog on this project was some of the worst stories that we've ever heard. And that it was absolutely devastating. This ruined some people's, careers just going forward. Like they were so disgusted and frustrated with working for them that they're changing their career path. That's how bad it is. That's how much they've screwed this up. That's how much they took what people were, passionate, loving, strong, wanted to build on this, and they just ruined it for them. They chewed it up, spit it out, and then walked away and said, "Oh, we don't care." And that's just shocking to me.
Yeah. Yeah, so bad news for Naughty Dog, for sure.
Yeah. So I suspect now, looking at this, I think their sales are going to be stung considerably. I think once the reviews drop, it's going to be bad. It's going to be very, very bad. The story is going to feel like people are yelling at them, preaching to them, shouting at them.
Which means the official reviews are going to praise it, because it's going to have a politically correct narrative, and it's going to have...
No, not necessarily. I think that in some cases, especially once the people playing this realize that there's more blood in the water than potential growth from this company, we see this a lot. These people will abandon them 100%.
Yes, but I'm still anticipating
they
soft criticism, because you have a game with a female protagonist that's of a particular sexuality that's going to, that's going to motivate certain types of critics are not going to want to be too harsh on it, even if the game is absolute trash, because they're not going to want to be called out on as being, some sort of phobe, right?
No, I think in this case, there's so much blood in the water that it's going to behoove the writers to find anything and everything to target at them to write hit pieces on, because in this particular case, the bad click bait, the negative clicks are going to be a lot stronger than any positive clicks, and just writing piece after piece after piece of just shredding them, one thing after the next. I think that's going to become the mainstay thing, and I think they're going to say things like, well, this is what you get when you leave a person of his particular ethnicity and sexual status, that this is what happens when you leave a person like that in charge and you don't replace them with somebody who's more on the list of acceptable things. That's how this will probably end up being twisted.
Well, you could be right. You could be right. It's hard to say. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it all falls out. But ultimately, reviews mean nothing if nobody's buying the game, and this is going to hurt the game. This is going to hurt the studio. What kind of impact do you think this is going to have on sales of the PS5? Because this game is now, we announced, I believe Saturday, might have been last Wednesday, that this game went PS5 exclusive. So, I'm not misremembering that, am I? We were talking about Last of Us 2 being a PS5 exclusive. I'm not mixing that up with some other game.
No, this is an exclusive to the title, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So sales of the PS5, do you think those are going to be impacted? There's obviously lots of other games, we've got the release date for Ghost of Tsushima now. There's other games coming out that may drive people to the PlayStation, but how do you think this will impact the console sales?
This is just going to be another failure in the what we will see is the long list of failures. Some good stuff too, but we're starting to see more negatives come out of the PlayStation than positives. I mean, things are just not looking good right now, as a whole. Like, mistakes are starting to pile up, things are starting to pile up, and we have errors that are starting to become critical. Um, so yeah, no, yes, it's releasing on the PlayStation 4, but it's also releasing on the PlayStation 5.
Okay,
Obvious.
what was that? What were we talking about that went PS5 exclusive? Like, I know it's a PlayStation exclusive, but we talked about something recently that was specifically on the PS5 and not on the PS4. Okay, my apologies. It's not The Last of Us 2 then that we were talking about, but it slipped my
No.
mind what we were actually talking about.
Well, we were talking about, I mean, in general, we were talking about the new trilogy. The one to save this one is going to be the uh,
Well,
robot dinosaurs. What's
yeah,
that
the
one called again?
Horizon Zero Dawn. Is that what we're
Horizon Zero
talking about?
Dawn.
Oh, the sequel to that. That's right. Okay,
Yes, the sequel to that.
that's what we were
Obviously.
talking about. That's PS5 exclusive as opposed to
No,
PS4.
when we're talking PS5 exclusive, we mean that you're not going to be playing The Last of Us on anything other than a PlayStation. Like, yes, you're going to play it on the 4, but you're also going to play it on the 5. It's not going to be. I thought that was what you were aiming at or talking about. Was
Yeah,
that
no, that's I
it's not
was
going to show up.
anyway.
It's not coming to the PlayStation, or sorry, to the Xbox. It's not coming to the PC.
Yeah, but I mean with the timing of the like, there may have been there may have been bundles down the road of The Last of Us 2 with PlayStation 5s, maybe an enhanced version for the PS5. Who knows? The that's
No, we
those are
know
going to
that
take a hit.
that's coming.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
we know that that's coming
I'm saying
already.
I'm saying those are going to take a hit now. Sony might have
Yeah.
to rethink its strategy.
No, Sony definitely has to rethink what they're doing here because, well, not rethink, but they're definitely not going to have like that as much of a strong lineup as they were hoping. You know, they were hoping to have, you know, a bunch of cool games and titles and stuff like that come out, and that list is slowly shrinking from the delays due to current issues in the world to all the other stuff that's going on. They're slowly losing out on their hits. Like, this was supposed to be a huge seller. It was going to come out. Originally, what we were hearing, I was starting to hear rumors that due to
All right, we seem to be
like
having a network
definitely.
problem.
Sorry, am I
There
coming
was
through
a
clear
you're
now?
here. You're coming through now.
Okay, so
Is this,
so again with this stupid Discord, I swear. So just with what they were hoping to launch with the PlayStation 5, they were hoping to have a long list of games. I had been hearing rumors that ever since they had quote and delayed the game indefinitely, from what I was starting to hear, they were starting to pitch the idea that they were going to delay it to the next console. And they were just going to use this as an excuse to push it over to the next console, push it over to 5, and to keep it on 5, and then to make everybody who wants to play it pick up a 5, basically. And that they would use the excuse, well, it's not our fault, it's it's the world situation. That's what I was starting to, and I suspected that now that could be rumor. I don't know for sure. It's not something that I can say is positively fact, but it does make you wonder. It's like, okay, well, I mean, it would have made them a lot of money. It would have pushed a lot of 5s, especially if the game was like highly reviewed, or maybe if there was like exclusive like DLC or an expansion, because they did do some additional content for the original game, that went over really well, and it was pretty darn good. But they definitely could have done that again here and pushed that only to the 5. Um, Again, rumors all over the place. We don't know what was going on. I mean, the fact that they had a May release and then this whole thing happened, and then they were like, okay, no, we're releasing it in what is it now, June? It's June now. It's like, wow, that, I mean, why come out and say we're this is an indefinite delay? It's not coming out anytime soon.
All right,
This
I'm
whole
gonna.
thing in the
Sorry, I'm
world-
gonna cut you off, Sub, because your audio is really getting garbled. So, I want to apologize for that, and just to explain to folks why we're still using Discord. The reason is because we have not found another program that doesn't, as soon as we load it up, automatically screw with all of our audio settings on our computers. If anyone can recommend one that may have more reliability than Discord and won't screw with stuff that, without us giving it permission to, please do so. Please let us know. Yeah, you talk to us on the Discord, give it in the feedback channel or something. Please let us know. I'd like to find something that, like Discord, when it works really well, but sometimes we do have problems like this. And like I said, like Skype, I will not touch Skype anymore because it screws with everything the minute I load it up. And it's like so deeply embedded in Windows now that it's impossible to even close it half the time. And then, like, when we used to record our, pre-record podcasts before doing them live, like before we did them live, we'd be sitting there recording in Audacity or whatever, and we'd just watch our microphone settings just jump all over the place because Skype would be running in the background, and it was so frustrating. So
it was off, it wasn't on, and it would be moving our recording microphone levels up and down from anywhere from 1% to 100%.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
While we were recording in mid speak, and we would go into the options, we would like, do not adjust microphone levels, and it would be like, okay, not going to do that, then it would be doing it. And it wasn't until we like forcibly uninstalled it and cleaned out the registry that it stopped changing the levels. The other thing that really annoys me, you might know this, is like when you're in some calls and the other person's quiet and you hear the microphone volume gets boosted until it's like at maximum intake volume, and you hear that hum, that background hum that just starts like getting louder and louder. That drives me absolutely mental. I have like nightmares about that stuff.
And I don't even know. I don't know what causes that,
ugh.
because like that doesn't happen on my end. When you're quiet, you still stay at the same volume. But anyway, we'll get off this because this is probably not interesting to a lot of folks. But that's why we're still using Discord. For those of you who are wondering, but we're open to switching if we can find something that works better without mucking with our computers. All right, you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. We love seeing the conversation in the live chat. Everybody's so active there, and lots of interesting conversations going on. Not as much. I mean, yeah, it's. I've been just watching the conversation, and it's funny how it jumps around and things just get going, and everyone will start going on a roll about some silly thing, and Notional's been doing the same joke for the past 50 minutes in different iterations, and it's a lot of fun. If you're listening after the fact, please consider joining the live broadcast. Click the link in the description below to subscribe to the YouTube channel, come to the live broadcast where you can read the live chat, participate in it. Also join our Discord server. Lots of great community stuff and discussions happening there. It's really awesome. And you know what's really been great about it is seeing lots of friendships develop, and even like some projects and things get underway from people who met each other through this Discord server that kind of coalesced around our content. It's been really great to see. It's one of my favorite things about doing this. So anyway, it's a great place. Join up. You can lurk and just watch stuff, or you can, there's people doing, streaming games on there now just for their friends and, for other people in the community. So it's been fantastic. So click the link below to join. Be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. So any further assessments of Naughty Dog now, before we get back into the Cyberpunk stuff, because there's a couple more Cyberpunk 2077 things I wanted to talk about, but any further thoughts on Naughty Dog there, Cyb?
This is a betrayal of what fans wanted and were expecting. This is a turnaround from the story that they were telling. And yeah, the creator, and as we've said before, it's bad to stay stagnant. It's bad to like repeat yourself over and over and over again. Um, and yeah, you could say, well, wait, why is this an issue versus like something else, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the answer basically boils down to, well, in this case, they didn't do it right. Like he's really not done any of this right. Um, he's gone off a tangent into a random direction. Um, Here's the special thing about Last of Us, the original one, is you could take an older person who hadn't ever played very many games, put them down in front of that game, and give them a controller, kind of like help them kind of walk through, and they would be genuinely interested in the story. If you sit down an older person in front of this game, new one, and you say, "Here, just do this, that, do this," they will get upset. They will get up, walk away, be very angry with you, talk about how you're this is absolutely gross and disgusting, and how could you do this? And it will be much more akin to um, a video that was passed around as a form of visual torture many years ago, with a cup involving. That's all I'll say on that. It's going to be far more akin to something along that line as far as people reacting to it, which is to say, people will be disgusted, angry, really insulted, and just generally will go, what in the world were you thinking? Because that's what's gone on here. That's the direction that the person's taken. And it's done so in a really, like, from what I saw, the dude needs help. Like the dude needs to like talk to a psychiatrist or something, because that level of insanity is, I mean, it really comes from a place of deep dark. Like, you don't come up with a storyline and acts like that if you're not genuinely struggling with something, you know. And he needs some help, because this is beyond like doing it this way, focusing on it this way. Again, it's one thing to be blowing up bodies left and right. I'd say anybody who's overly obsessive about something like Mortal Kombat, watching fatality, 10-hour loops of fatalities over and over again, that they've got some kind of an issue there too. And this is very similar to this. It's like, oh no, it's because we're thinking outside the box. We're trying to create a new story. It's like, no, you've created a film with some really dark stuff in it, and that's all. And it's really disturbing. It's extremely disturbing. You need to talk. And I don't think a game like that is going to sell. I really don't. Because unlike Cyberpunk, unlike a lot of other games, unlike the Fallouts, you have a choice to make, and you're presented with the choice. There's no choices here. You're not given a choice. This is a roller coaster story. You got a central start and a fixed ending.
So
fixed
it's
track and a
linear,
fixed ending.
no split paths.
No split paths. As far as I understand, this isn't, oh yeah, well, this is the dark side. Of course it's going to be dark. It's not like that. This is worse. Um this is like, hey, this is just going to, like, screw with people because we can. Like, okay,
All right.
that sounds very unhealthy.
Well, there you go. All right. So we'll get off that for now, but thank you for, well, I'm not even going to mention, but yeah. So thank you for, thanks for not, dumping spoilers into the chat. And of course, we do recommend that if you that you post fake spoilers, So just assume that if you read anything in the chat, it's a fake spoiler, as we asked people at the beginning of the show today to flood the chat with their fake spoilers, but they've been flooding it with other stuff, and that's good too. All right, so on the topic of choices and things like that within games, a couple other Cyberpunk 2077 stories I wanted to get to that I just sort of came across as I was looking into the other stuff about the ratings. But there's some interesting things. So, and actually, shout out to somebody who posted this on our Discord server. I'm just going to look it up. Oh, Scadril. Yes, posted this on our Discord server, linked to a Reddit post where somebody went through and, they took one of the... there's a scene in one of the videos, actually the deep dive video from CD Projekt Red. There was a clip that sort of visualized some of the branching paths and choices in one of the quests in the game. And the quest is called Pattern Recognition. And so this person went in, examined the frames, examined the labels on them, and drew up a spreadsheet of this quest and posted it on Reddit with the title, "Quests Really Are as Complex and Multi-Branching as CDPR Claims." And this was posted by Redditor Silver-Steel. So, shout out to Silver Steel. I don't have the graphic, but I will read some of his summary points, where he just says he made a Visio flowchart to better visualize the paths. And here's what he discovered, that there are 3 different unknown ways to discover and start the pattern recognition quest, which involves meeting the Voodoo Boys contact inside the Pacifica Church. We saw some of this stuff in gameplay and in the deep dive video. He goes on to say, "I don't recall The Witcher 3 having different ways to begin quests. The most I remember is being able to find out about monster contracts either by looking on notice boards or going straight to the contract giver. Then there are 3 different unknown conclusions to pattern recognition, but only if you follow Placide's plan. Incapacitate the Netwatch agent and then meet Brigitte. Following the plan is the only way to meet Brigitte. That is also crazy. I don't recall any Witcher 3 quests that truly had different conclusions other than the end of the game. And these 3 unknown conclusions to pattern recognition are from just one branching path of just one quest." Mm-hmm. Then there's an alternate path that takes the quest in an entirely different direction if you choose to side with Netwatch and not incapacitate the agent. There is another alternate path following the briefing at Placide's. Whether or not this still leads you to the mall is unknown. So we don't have all the information about this quest, but that only means that it could be even more complicated than what this person discovered. It was confirmed that outside the mall, you see 2 animal gang members get on motorcycles and ride away. If you follow the optional track down the animal stragglers objective, you can unlock another alternate path through the quest. So there you go. That's already a heck of a lot of paths you can take through this one quest. So, and it is a main quest, like it's part of the main quest line. So it makes sense that that it would be there would be more work put into it. But that's pretty awesome. And when you think about the fact that there's going to be just so many quests in this game. Side quests are going to have outcomes that affect the main quest. I think we are in for some pretty amazing stories, and a lot of us are going to experience very different stories from others of us. But anyway, I'm surprised I hadn't seen someone do this before. Really look at those branching paths from that visualization of it and turn it into a spreadsheet. I'm very surprised that, after this many months later, there's still new stuff coming out of that, out of those videos that CDPR put out. Now, it's possible somebody did at the time, and it just didn't get noticed. But anyway, it's really interesting that that's come out now. And then another tidbit that I came across, this is more related to The Witcher than Cyberpunk 2077. But while I was looking into the ratings for Cyberpunk 2077 story that we covered at the top of the podcast, I came across this weird article that was basically explaining why we never see the main protagonists in The Witcher 3 completely nude. You see other characters with, nudity in the game, but the main protagonists, you don't see that, and it comes down to, apparently with some ratings boards, it's different if you make the main character naked as opposed to NPCs and side characters. If it's the character you're actually controlling, that's considered way more adult than if it's like some NPC or some side character. Go figure. I don't really. I mean, they kind of explain the rationale for that. It's like you're more identifying with the character, etc., etc. I don't know if I buy that explanation, but I mean, whatever. I mean, I was totally fine with not seeing Geralt or Ciri naked, but I think that there's an ulterior reason. And I discovered this while I was playing around with things when I did a video a couple of months ago called The Witcher 3 Mods, or Witcher 3 Funny Mods. And I was messing with the command console and had a bunch of various mods installed and was just screwing around with things and accidentally made Geralt completely naked.
Oh yeah.
Ladies, I'm sorry to disappoint you. There's nothing there. He is a Ken doll.
Oh, Ken doll. Oh no. That is
So there's the real reason. There's the real reason. Geralt has no dong. Confirmed. I don't know if I have a recording of that. I might actually somewhere. I don't know if I could find it now, but yeah. So
reminds me of that one Black Mirror episode. They're all Ken dolls, and it's like it's because the show is family friendly, and they're like the characters within this thing are joking because it's based off of, they're stuck in this world where it's like based off of this like friendly show, and yeah, no, we're all Ken dolls. So
right.
But yeah, it's like torture for them.
It was weird. It was like, because when you remove Geralt's outfit, his model, like, they put shorts on him, right, or like an undergarment of sorts. So he's always supposed to be covered, but that undergarment disappears when you put an outfit on him. So somehow I did something that made it so, his clothes disappeared, but his what he was supposed to have on didn't appear. And yep, there he was in all his glory with absolutely nothing. So sorry to and now they're talking about the unicorn. Okay. Well, anyway, I just wanted to throw that in as kind of a funny story before we get on to our final topic, which is just this Assassin's Creed reveal. And now I actually closed the live stream because I just wanted to not have any excess bandwidth usage.
Oh, it's been so tomorrow, April 30th. Here's an update. So the stream has finished. Tomorrow, April 30th, world premiere trailer for Assassin's Creed Valhalla has been announced. So it's going to happen at
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
April 30th,
that's definitely
8 a.m. PDT or 5 p.m. CE. This is their new direction. We had heard rumors for quite a while that the new story was going to go towards the Vikings. They do seem to really like that ship combat, so finding a way to keep that added in seems to make a lot of sense. And I mean, there's a lot of similarity between those kinds of ships and the ship we had in the last Assassin's Creed game. Which I think the last two is right. What was the last one?
Okay, well, I didn't play Odyssey, but Origins had some ship combat, and
Origins.
It was not
Origins
it wasn't
and
great.
Odyssey both feature similar like long ship style builds. So there's a lot of like similar tech there that's actually going to be quite handy for a lot of things. So this is actually, this is really good.
Yeah. So on your screen right now, there's a screenshot I took of earlier in their Periscope broadcast. This is from a couple hours ago, and so they were painting in these ships and things in the background, and there was this shadowy figure in front of them, and so that's like what you're seeing there. Is kind of the side of a person with their arm bent at the elbow and their hip. It's like the side of their torso. And so just when we were going live, they were painting in the person, and it was this Viking character with an axe and stuff. So very cool, and you can see a very Viking-looking ship. So yeah, I mean, it looks like, again, does look like there's going to be a focus on the naval combat, which honestly, like, I found it was my least favorite part of Assassin's Creed Origins.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a...
Like, it was just so linear. The ships are not very maneuverable. I mean, there's some strategy to it, but I don't know. I much preferred the other combat. But anyway, interesting. So, I'm going to make a wild prediction here. This is going to be another Assassin's Creed game. There's my take on all of this.
Wild speculation. See, I think that... No.
Sorry, I don't know if you cut out or if you just censored
No,
yourself.
I was gonna go with an idea. It's no, I think realistically, like, this sounds great. The Viking arrows was really kind of cool. I like their general style. It's probably like one of the... It's like if I could combine like early Viking, because like Vikings are so interesting. Did you know they stopped raiding on their own? They got to the point where they realized that it was bad, and they chose not to do it anymore. They didn't stop because they suffered some great defeat or something like that. It was really interesting how it happened, and scholars still debate on it or not, but it's just their whole world is quite interesting. Most of them, by the way, had blonde hair because they actually used I think it's lyre. I think I'm saying that right. They use this chemical in their hair to like kill ticks and stuff, but it also bleached all their hair. So that's why when people think of Vikings, they think of the like blonde warriors. They weren't blonde by, that wasn't an intentional side effect. That was just them like keeping the bugs out, and that just turned their hair, white or super blonde. Basically bleaching their hair constantly was kind of gave them an iconic look. But that's like, they also loved hot springs. I always think this, like, I think if the Japanese and like Viking culture had ended up being near each other, I think they would have gotten along pretty good, because there's a lot of similarities of like general like style and choice, not that do kind of fit into each other or like complement each other in a bit of a positive way. But they never happened because they're completely different sides of the globe, not even in the same ocean at any point. So yeah, it's one of those like interesting little side thoughts that I have.
Anyway,
but no, just generally, I think this, with this announcement, I'm gonna be watching the trailer tomorrow. I'm very curious to see where they go. I think that just generally speaking, this is a good move, and Ubisoft is one of these companies that has learned from their mistakes. I think we will see if this plays out, because their quality recently has not been great. And especially with Odyssey, they really bungled that, and they really kind of dropped in a bunch of other areas. So it'll be interesting to see if they're recovering and how much they're going to recover.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping if this game is going to interest me at all, it's going to have some innovative gameplay changes. Like I enjoyed playing Assassin's Creed Origins, but I'm not really interested in playing Assassin's Creed Origins again in a different setting. as cool as a Viking setting would be. And that was one of the awesome things about Origins, was actually about 50% of the reason that I actually picked it up was that it was the ancient Egypt setting. And I really liked that. I've been fascinated with ancient Egypt since my childhood. And it was really cool to be running around in that world and see everything. And, it was in Cleopatra's time. And by then, the pyramids were already ancient. So, it was really, really interesting, really interesting setting for it. And then the trailers and reveals for Odyssey came out, and it looked like the exact same game all over again, just in a different setting. And then, and even with some crossover, because, the Roman setting, Greco-Roman kind of setting was somewhat present in Origins as well, due to the occupation. And then, I'm hoping that this is more than just same game in a transplanted to a different setting again. I'm hoping they innovate. But we'll find out tomorrow, apparently. You said it was tomorrow that they're doing the reveal?
Yeah, no, but yeah,
the trailer?
As the stream ended, they put up a big thumbnail, or said, tune in.
Very cool. Very interesting.
Yeah, and it's officially out. It's called Valhalla. So it's really interesting, and again, I'm really looking forward.
What might really be cool, though? One of the cool things they did in Odyssey, or sorry, not Odyssey, Origins. Why'd they have to give them such similar names? Bringing all of the mythology in, and even bringing, making some of the ancient Egypt gods real and stuff, and there's a couple of points where you're battling them, and so going more into that sort of fantasy element of it was really cool. Plus, just all of the lore and mythology of ancient Egypt really. Well,
I will say that Osiris is pretty fun drink.
Yeah, but if they do that with the Viking gods and stuff, that'd be really cool too. That would be interesting. But still, I don't want just the same old gameplay. And with that, I think that is all for today. So, yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up there. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for watching, either live or after the fact, for the awesome conversation in the chat, and for supporting this show. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. Would really appreciate that if you haven't done it already. And I want to extend a special thank you to our Patreon supporters and our channel members who help to make this content possible. Our big dang heroes on Patreon, Josh, Robin, Time Bean, and our 2 anonymous supporters there. Our channel members here on YouTube, Mr. Pazdernik, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, and Terror K. Thank you all so very much. And thank you to everybody who shares our content. Thank you to everybody who likes and subscribes and hits the notification bell. We can use all the help we can get, especially now. It's a difficult time. Ad revenue is taking a huge hit, so we just appreciate all of you so much right now. It's great. I really appreciate the community that's built around this channel. If you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, or any of the other platforms this podcast goes out to, we appreciate your interactions there as well. You can like and follow us on those platforms as well. But you're missing half the fun of the live show and the Discord community and all of that stuff. Plus, it takes a little while to get the show up to those platforms. So if you want the latest info sooner, hit the link in the description that you'll find, and subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cyb, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.